Morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. And today I thought we move into the 20th Amendment. This deals with the term of the president and the vice president. You know, we've had an election, and we're getting ready to inaugurate a new leader. This is going to happen on the 20th of January, as it does every 4 years. But it didn't always happen then. Well, let me just read the first section. This is Section 1 of the 20th Amendment. The term of the President and the Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the third day of January of the years in which some terms would have ended, if this article had been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. So what they're stating here is, after an election, which happens in November, we're going to have an electoral college vote, and this will happen in December. And on January 3rd, the new House and Senate will convene. They'll choose a speaker. They'll open up with the president of the Senate, who will come on the 6th. They'll open up the electoral college envelopes. They'll count them, and you'll actually have an accounting of the electoral votes on the 6th. And on the 20th, there'll be a swearing-in ceremony. But why is this in the 20th Amendment? Why was it necessary to have the 20th Amendment? Well, initially in 1787, they met. The Constitutional Convention took place, and it took a little bit of time for the states to ratify the new Constitution. So we get to August, I think it is, could be September, I think it's August of 1789. The Continental Congress, it's actually the Congress of the Confederation. They pass a proclamation, an order, because the Constitution has been approved. So they pass this proclamation to set the gears in place to set up the new government. And so they order an electoral college vote, which would take place in January. And in the first week of March, in this case it was the 4th, the Senate and the House would gather. And this sets all this in motion. And it takes time to get a hold of Washington, who's been selected as the commander of our first commander-in-chief, our first president. He is told by messenger that he is the new president. He will be the first president. The citizens want him to be president of the United States. That's who they've chosen. It's been a unanimous ballot of the Electoral College. And so he's presented with the results, and he heads up to New York to take office. Well, on the 20th of that year, the president is sworn in as president of the United States. And because he serves for 4 years, this sets in motion that every 4 years on the 20th of March, a new president takes place. Well, this goes on for some time. The 20th Amendment actually sets a time for this to occur, and that's why it's now on January 20th. So you had an election. Generally, all our elections took place in November. And And then you have darn near 6 months before the new executive is taking place. And this is why, for instance, Adams is having all these midnight appointments of judges, because he has all this time between when he lost the seat, or whether he found out he was going to lose the seat, and when the new administration, in this case the Jefferson administration, would take place. So he was nominating judges in breakneck speed to try to get things done prior to Jefferson becoming president. But this amendment, it shortens the time. So now, instead of in March, we're now in January 20th. Now, this is really what's important here in this amendment, in this time span, the Section 1 of the 20th Amendment. It creates a smaller period of time, so there's less shenanigans that can take place. Because from November to January and the Electoral College voting in December, now it's only a little over a month or better before the next president's sworn in. And that's where this comes from, and the time frame. Honestly, when I looked up to research to find out why this change was, and I searched around in the Constitution looking for that time, not realizing that it wasn't in the Constitution. It was in a resolution from the Congress of the Confederation that set this date up. And of course, the Constitution says that a president and vice president will serve together for a period of 4 years. So once that clock begins, the 4 years continues on to the next 4 years. Obviously, it has to roll to the same date. There are lots of things in the Constitution that set up certain things and how things have to be gone through in order to be constitutional. And that's why our Constitution is important, to understand exactly what's going on and the why. In this case, it was a resolution from Congress that set this in motion. The Second Amendment has to do with problems we are having in the countryside, which is why you had some of these amendments put through. And just the purpose of having the convention was because of the weakness of the previous document. Everything rolls upon what was there previously. So you can trace the amendments back to the original document, and the original document back to the Articles of Confederation, and you can trace that back to the problems we were having with Britain. It all rolls from one section to another in progression. So the historical aspect of what was occurring leads us right to the day on how we live and how we govern ourselves. So that's important to understand when you get into some of these more archaic, less sexy amendments, because these amendments aren't just out of whole cloth. They just didn't appear. There were purposes and reasons for them. And that's why when we were talking about the 11th Amendment, for instance, in the Supreme Court case, and the 12th updating the Electoral College, and the Civil War creating the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, everything is there for a reason. A lot of complaints about taxation, which is what brought on, the 16th, 17th, the complaints about alcohol, which brings up, the prohibition and anti-prohibition amendments. All these things do matter. And understanding our basic history matters because it gives us a reference point of why we did what we did. And in understanding the Constitution, we have to know the arguments at the time in Congress that created the reason for sending the amendments to the states. And that's why it's important to understand them. So I thought we'd bring that up for a few minutes today. And we'll talk more next week. And we'll catch you next time for our next constitutional talk. You folks have a good day now. I do have a video on Monday that will an author interview, because I'm going to be joining the Festival of Storytellers again this year. And as always, I'm trying to help make my fellow citizens understand our founding documents a little better. You have a good day now. We'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. Bye for now.